Okay. The third unit, the title of the third unit is Footings and Rafts. Footings and Rafts. When you talk about footings, so far we have said foundations are nothing but the synonymous word for a foundation is footing. When you talk about footings, they are either made up of bricks or they are made up of concrete. Foundations are usually made of concrete, and some places it can be made up of bricks also, or stones. Large size stones can be used to make the foundations. And the footings la vandu we saw about some names of the footings in the while solving the problems in bearing capacity. When we learnt about the bearing capacity, you might have remember strip footing, might remember circular footing, you might remember strap footing, you might remember uh, your we saw about continuous footing, we saw about rectangular footing. Those are some names that you might remember about the footings in the second unit. And why we learn the second unit before this abdina, whatever may be the type of the footing, two important parameters affect the design of footing. One is the bearing capacity and another is the settlement. That's why we solve many types of problems in finding bearing capacity. And the next is settlement. There is problems to compute or formulas which are used to compute the settlement also. I'll take after this topic. After this type of footings, I'll go to that and I will finish it. So the type of footings, and there is a type of shallow foundation, and that is raft footing. There is another type of shallow foundation, that is a special type which is different from the other shallow foundation types, and that is called raft footing, or it is also known as mat footing. It is also known as mat footing. So we'll see what are the types of foundations or what are the types of footings and where it is used, and why, how to choose the specific type of footing based on the particulars of the site. How to choose the special type of the footing, that also we will be learning in this unit. So this unit has some 4 headings or 4 parts. First part is about the types of isolated footing or shallow foundation. We'll learn about the types of footings, and we'll learn about the combined footing, and we will learn about the mat foundation. We'll learn about what is that type, and it's a theory, and what is that type, and what where we are going to use it. That's what we are going to learn in this first topic. And in the second topic of this unit is comparatively smaller, and this unit and the second topic we will be listening to is the contact pressure distribution. What is contact pressure means? We know that soil is a different it's a different platform, whereas structure is a different thing. When a structure comes in contact with soil, there will be a soil structure interaction. When the soil structure interaction happens, the load from the structure goes to the soil. At the same time, the soil will give some resistance force to the load coming downwards. So we call that upward pressure given or upward resistance given by the soil to the structure placed on it is called as contact pressure distribution, or the pressure that is found when there is a soil structure interaction happens. That is known as contact pressure distribution. We learn about the contact pressure distribution and how foundations fail also will be learnt in the second topic. And in the third topic, we will be learning about the proportioning of the foundations. When you talk about proportioning of the foundations, in your reinforced cement DRC subject, you will be learning about proportioning of beam, proportioning of column, proportioning of slab. What does mean by proportioning is we arrive at the correct dimensions. We arrive at the correct dimensions of the footings. by based on the allowable soil pressure. Based on the allowable soil pressure, we will arrive at the size of the foundations or size of the footings, and that is about proportioning of foundations. And we are concentrating more on the rigid behavior. We won't care about our flexible behaviors. We care about rigid behaviors. Rigid behaviors, now all concrete structures are rigid, mostly rigid. All concrete structures are assumed to be rigid. So we will learn about the rigid behavior and how much is the, how we are going to proportion or arrive at the sizes. And we learn about a specific topic, and that topic is compensated foundation. When we talk about compensated foundation, it is different. It is an aspect of uh, constructing a foundation. That as what is that aspect and what does it say, we'll learn about the compensated foundation. It is not a type of foundation, it is aspect in a foundation or a parameter in a foundation. We will learn about that in the fourth part of this unit. So for this IAE internal assessment, you will be having the types of isolated footing and contact pressure. The first two parts I will be covering. Okay, we know that I said this in the second unit also. Every foundation have a depth as well as every foundation have a width. If the width of the foundation is greater than the depth of the foundation, it is a shallow foundation. If the depth is greater, then that is a deep foundation. If the depth is smaller, it is a shallow foundation, and if the depth is greater, it is going to be a deep foundations. Where will the foundations will be placed? The foundations are mostly below the columns if it is a framed structure, and if it is a load bearing structure, then the foundation is going to be below the foundation is going to be below the walls. If it is a load bearing structure, it is going to be below the walls, and if it is a framed structure, the foundation is going to be below the column. So what is its function? It transfers the load from the walls or the columns to the soil. The function of the foundation is just to transfer. It transfers the load from the columns to the soil. If it sometimes takes the load or bears the load, it will automatically fail. So we will be very careful. The load should be distributed. And why the foundation of this shape is like an inverted T? Why it is an inverted T? Column is a point load, and when the load comes from the column, it comes in the point load, and that inverted T has a base of flattened base or a larger area base. The load when coming from the point load will be transferred very equally or distributed to a larger area. That's why the foundation shape is an inverted T. The base is a larger area. That is the basic idea for distributing the load equally to the foundation, equally to the soil. So that flattened base is a larger area, and through that larger area the load is transferred to the soil. That's why we enlarge the portion of the foundation below the columns. There are different types of shallow foundation. First is a strip footing. It is also known as continuous footing. Strip footing is seen in load bearing walls. Load bearing structures la podra foundation the strip footing or continuous footing. And the second footing is spread footing or isolated footing, or it is also known as pad footing. Spread or isolated or pad footing. And the third is combined footing. Next footing is combined footing. In combined footing, we will be learning about two combined footings, rectangular and trapezoidal. And the fourth footing is strap footing, or it is also known as cantilever footing. And the fifth footing is mat foundation or raft foundation. So we will be concentrating on what each and every type of the foundation we will learn, where it is used and where it is not used, and we will be learning about the pictorial representation of every foundation. The first foundation is strip footing or continuous footing. Strip footing or continuous footing. Uh, as the name indicates, it is going to be a continuous footing because it's going to be continuous. Below, if the wall is, if there is no column and no beams, then we call the structure as load bearing structure. Only walls are there, then that is a load bearing structure. Below the load bearing structure, along the length of the wall, there is going to be the foundation, that is called as a strip footing. Along the length of the wall, it is going to be the strip footing. It is mostly provided for a load bearing wall. Then sometimes in framed structures also we can provide a strip footing if in case we have outer columns alone. We have outer columns alone, then we can go for is a small room and only 4 columns are present outside, then we can go for sometimes strip footing. We can go for strip footing. Or and when the columns are closer with each other, we can go for strip footing. But practically we mostly use strip footing only for a load bearing structure. This case is this strip footing is more economical because we are not going for separate foundations below the columns, separate podla as a complete strip. And the strip can be made even with bricks also, we don't need concrete as such. But when you go for isolated footing, we need a concrete basement or a concrete foundation is important. So we always prefer strip footing because it's a complete strip and it is going to be economical also. It is economical to provide a strip footing when there is going to be a number of spread footings. It is also known as continuous footing. You can see the strip footing in a picture. Mostly load bearing walls or the foundations are made up of strip footings. This is a strip footing. You can see the outer boundary with strip footings. And when the number of outer columns are more and they are nearly together or come one column is very near to another column, the outer boundary, then we can go for this strip footing. You can see this in the picture. You can see it in the pictures, strip footings. Next, second type of footing is a spread footing or isolated footing or a pad footing. As the name indicates, it is going to be isolated. One column and below the column one foundation. That is isolated footing. No interconnections between one column with another column. One column and one foundation, and that is going to be isolated footing. It is also known as spread footing because the load from the column is distributed to a larger area or it is spreaded to a larger area. So that is called as a spread footing. That is going to be called as a spread footing. It is provided to support below the columns. You can't provide it in a walls kila we can't provide it. It is not used in a load bearing structure. It is used only for framed structures. Below the columns you are going to support it by means of spread footings or isolated footings. When you go for that base area of the foundation, it is going to be a rectangular in plan or circular in plan, or it can be square in plan, or it can be mostly circle, square and rectangular slabs will be placed. This is the slab placed below the column. The slabs placed below the column can be square or rectangle, or it can be circular. Sometimes it is stop to spread the load over a large area. It is launched mainly to spread the load to a large area. You can see the square column. You can see a square column. Also you can see a rectangular, not a square column. You can see a square foundation spread footing below the column. Below the column you can see that this is the reinforcement cage for the foundation. In this they will pour the concrete. They'll pour the concrete. So you can see the finished work here. See the finished work in the middle picture. The finished isolated footing. One column and below is the foundation. Column and the foundation is a spread area of the load from the column will be spreaded to that concrete pedestal. You can see this. This is going to be this is the rectangular footing, or it's going to be a rectangular spread footing or rectangular isolated footing. And when you see it in the plan or in the top view, you can see the rectangle shape of the foundation. And it can be also of three types. One is single footing. This is a single footing foundation, column and a single foundation. This is single foundation or single footing. Sometimes the foundation, the single footing can be stepped, like staircases. It can be stepped, so it is called as stepped footing. It is also called as stepped footing. There is another type which is sloped footing. Instead of steps, they will be slightly inclined on all the four sides. Then it is going to be a sloped footing. Another type is sloped footing. In slopy areas, we can go for the sloped footing. Stepped footing is when the column size is very big and the load is very high, then we can go for stepped footing. Step by step, the load will be distributed to a larger area consecutively, so that you can stepped footing is used for higher loaded areas, and sloped footing is used in the areas where the areas are slopy, or in a hilly area or in a mountain area. You can see the real-time picture of a stepped footing in this picture, and the sloped footing pictorial representation is given. Pictorial representation is given. And the next type is combined footing. Next type of foundation is combined footing. A combined footing supports two columns. When you take two columns, now we saw one foundation and it supports one column. Now we will see about combined footing. The combined footing is, as the name indicates, it's not going to be isolated, it is going to be combined. When two foundations are going to be combined, we are going to combine two foundations, that is a combined footing. Combined footing supports two columns. When it has to be supporting two columns, combined footing supports two columns. When two individual columns are there, I say when two individual columns are there, we can go for isolated footing. But in case this isolated footings overlap with each other, because the distance between the two columns are small. The distance between the two columns are small. They are very close to each other. Then the foundations of the two columns will overlap with each other. So we must combine both the foundations. So that is why combined footings are adapted. And sometimes combined footings are also adapted in cases where one column size is bigger, which is it carries more load. Another next column is going to be smaller and it carries smaller load. In such cases, two different types of loads comes into picture. In such cases also, eccentricity problems will come. So we should always go for combined footing. When two columns are nearby, we can go for combined footing. When two columns carry different loads, when they carry different loads, their size is also going to be different. When the size of the columns is also going to be different nearby, then we can go for combined footing. Um, the load is equally distributed. In the plan we can see the combined footings can be rectangular or it can be trapezoidal. It can be rectangular or it can be trapezoidal. You can see the two columns connected to one concrete strip or one concrete pedestal or one footing. Two columns connected to one foundation, that is going to be combined footing. And in the plan, if it is a rectangle, then it is called as a rectangular combined footing. And this is a trapezoidal combined footing. Two columns, one exterior column, the left side column is the exterior column or the outer column, and the second column is the interior column, and the two columns are connected by a single concrete pedestal. And in the plan you can see the shape is going to be trapezoidal. So in the plan it can be rectangle, then it is a rectangular combined footing. If the plan you see a trapezium, then it is going to be a trapezoidal combined footing. This in the cases we go for rectangular footing, and in what cases we go for trapezoidal footing now? If the outer column is smaller, if the outer column, exterior column, the left side column is smaller than the interior column, then we go for rectangular footing. If the exterior column is bigger than the interior column, then we go for trapezoidal footing. If the exterior column is bigger in size, that means it carries more load than the interior column, then we go for trapezoidal footing. If the exterior column is smaller and it carries lesser load than that of the interior column, then we go for rectangular combined footing. So you can see the real-time picture of a rectangular combined footing. Two columns connected together, and as you can see, the left side column is going to be the exterior column, and the right side column is going to be the interior column, and the exterior column so they have used a rectangular footing. They have gone for rectangular combined footing, and they are very nearby. The two columns are very nearby, then we can go for combined footing. Instead of going for two isolated footings, we can go for combined footings. You can see the rectangular combined footings. Columns connected together, two columns connected together by means of a combined footing, one combined strip. And the fourth type of footing is strap footing or cantilever footing. Actually, some books they have used the term cantilever also, but actually cantilever has a different meaning. One end fixed and one end free, but strap has a different technique. So in this Aurora book, they have followed that strap is also known as like cantilever footing. Okay. In strap, here what we did, when two columns come together, we connected both with the single bed of foundation, and that is combined footing. This is combined footing. If strap means the same case, when two columns come together, and when you go for isolated foundation, they might overlap. When come together they might overlap, and that's why we went for combined footing. If in case of a strap footing, strip is different, strap is different. Strip is used below the walls, a strip of concrete, that is strip of foundation below the walls, that is strip footing. Strap footing is different. Strap footing means when the columns are very far apart. When two columns are far apart and in two columns isolated footings are adopted, but for the rigidity of the foundation and continuity of the foundation load, we connect two columns or two foundations, two isolated foundations, we connect by means of a strip of concrete that is called strap footing. Two isolated footings, when they are far apart, we connect both of them by means of a strip that is called as a strap footing. The strap connects, or the strip connects, the strap connects. Strapna enna solluvom usually, this is a strap of when we use plasters or sellotapes to cover a place, use the strap for this length, we will tell. Similarly, the strap is going to connect both the isolated footings, but it will not participate in the load transfer mechanism. It will not transfer any load, but it just connects to isolated footing, so that entirely they will act as one unit, rigid beam. So that's why we connect. It's a connecting beam, but it will not carry any load or transfer any load, or it will not have any soil reaction in it. It's similar to a beam. You can see the picture, you can understand. Exterior separate isolated footing, interior separate isolated footing, both are connected by a strap beam. A strap beam is connected in between one isolated footing, another isolated footing. They are far apart, then we connect by means of a strap of a beam, and that is a strap footing. But it will not transfer any load, it will not participate in the load transfer mechanism. Instead, it just connects and make it as a single unit. To make it as a single unit, we go for this strap footing. You can see the strap footing, real time picture. Two different foundations, two different isolated foundations connected by a strap, that is a strap footing. The last shallow foundation type is mat foundation or raft foundation. Mat foundation or raft foundation. I have already told many times what is a mat or a raft. As the name indicates, mat is going to be a big area, big flat area. Different columns are connected by means of a slab in the walls. In the walls, different columns are connected by a slab. Similarly, the slab is going to be on the roof. If the slab is going to be on the ground, then that we call it as a mat foundation. It covers entire column area. It will be connecting. It is also used when the soil bearing capacity is very low. The soil allowable pressure is very low and settlement is very high. The soil is very soft, settlement is very high, and water table is also very high. We know that the soil, the water with the soil is a very dangerous thing to a foundation. But if in case your site is going to be having higher water table and very low soil bearing capacity, then we should always go for a mat foundation or a raft foundation. Also, if single foundations, isolated foundations are going to be not economical, then we can go for raft foundation also. Main usage of a raft foundation is it avoids differential settlement. What is differential settlement? Settlement means the foundation going inside the soil. because soil couldn't bear the foundation, the load from the foundation, so immediately the column will go inside the soil. That is called settlement of the soil, or the settlement of the foundation seen in the foundation. And when one column is steady and another column alone goes inside, that is going to be called as differential settlement. That is going to be called as differential settlement. If differential settlement happens, no, the total entire structure will be damaged in 1 second. But to avoid that, we can go for mat foundation or a raft foundation. It avoids differential settlement. All columns are connected to one slab, that is a mat or a raft foundation. All columns are connected to one you can see all columns are connected to one concrete pedestal, that is the mat or the raft foundation. It is used in places where bearing capacity of the soil is very low, settlement is very high, water table is very high, then we can go for this raft or mat foundation. You can see the reinforcement detailing in a raft foundation. You see the picture. So this is about the 5 types of foundation and the situations where they are used. First is strip footing, used only in load bearing walls, under load bearing walls. Second, strip footing is also known as continuous footing, and the second is isolated footing. We saw about stepped footing, sloped footing. And when two columns come together, they overlap with each other. The foundation may overlap with each other. Why not we combine together? So the third footing is combined footing. In that we saw about rectangular foundation and rectangular combined footing, and we saw about trapezoidal combined footing. And the fourth footing is strap footing, when two columns are far apart and they have to be connected by a single strap, then we go for a strap footing. And the fifth type of foundation is mat foundation or raft foundation. We use if many columns come together very closer, then we connect to a common slab of concrete, and that is going to be called as mat or a raft foundation. Next topic is contact pressure distribution. Contact pressure distribution. As I said, when the load comes from the foundation or the structure, there will be resistance in the soil. That is, when soil and structure interacts with each other, there is going to be when the soil and the structure interact with each other, the pressure is going to be given from downwards by the soil to the structure, and that pressure distribution is called as contact pressure distribution. That distribution is called as contact pressure distribution. We will learn it one by one. And usually it is only for rigid footings. It is only for rigid footings the contact pressure. Usually we design or proportion the foundations as rigid footings, because mostly they are made up of concrete. We mostly go for rigid footings. You mostly prefer rigid footings, but sometimes in contact pressure distribution cases, இப்போ டேம் எடுத்து ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் போடுறீங்கன்னா, இந்த டேம் ஸ்ட்ரக்சருக்கு ரெசிஸ்டன்ஸ் சாயிலில் இருந்து போகும். when the resistance goes from the soil, no, we assume the contact pressure to be uniform, but actually the contact pressure will not be uniform. only when we assume it is flexible. Flexible na it is somewhat elastic material மாதிரி assume பண்ணிங்கன்னா மட்டும்தான் the contact pressure is going to be uniform. But actually it is not going to be uniform because actual foundation is going to be rigid structure. It is not at all elastic or flexible material. So it is not at all going to be uniform. So for different types of soil, for different types of rigidity, there is going to be different types of contact pressure distribution. Contact pressure distribution is a soil structure interaction problem. It was first studied by Berovica in the year 1936 to 1938. Berovica studied first of all about the contact pressure distribution between the soil and the foundation. What he assumed is Berovica has given a formula for contact pressure distribution, and he found out that contact pressure distribution depends or varies based on the rigidity of the structure. If the structure is going to be flexible, then it will be having different contact pressure. If the structure is going to be rigid, then it is going to be different contact pressure. For example, road பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நம்ம மெயின் ரோட்ஸ்லாம் ஹைவேஸ்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they are made with gravel roads, bituminous roads. Those bituminous roads are called as flexible pavements, flexible materials. But concrete materialsல பண்ணியிருக்கோம் அப்படின்னா it is going to be a rigid material. So based on the different rigidity of the structure, the contact pressure varies. So Berovica has proposed a rigidity formula Kr, and the rigidity formula states that is equal to 1 by 6 into 1 minus mu s square divided by 1 minus mu f square into Ef by Es into T by B the whole cube. In this, Kr is nothing but rigidity of a rigidity modulus, rigidity, and it is equal to 1 by 6. 1 minus mu is nothing but Poisson's ratio. Poisson, since we are dealing about soil structure interaction, what is the structure? Foundation is the structure. So F stands for the footing or the foundation. So mu is the Poisson's ratio of the Poisson's ratio, and mu S is nothing but soil Poisson's ratio, and the Poisson's ratio of the foundation is going to be mu F. And Ef and Es of modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus. Young's modulus நீங்கள் படிச்சிருப்பீங்க. Efனா Young's modulus of the footing, and Esனா Young's modulus of the soil, and T is the thickness of the footing, and B is the diameter or the width of the footing, the whole cube. So based on the rigidity formula, the contact pressure is going to be varying. It is going to be varying. What is Poisson's ratio? Lateral strain by linear strain. And you might have learned for steel Poisson's ratio is different, for soil Poisson's ratio is different, for foundation concrete it is going to be different. So it is different. Young's modulus is also going to be different. For steel it is going to be 200. For soil it is going to be some 5000. So elasticity varies. So this is the relative rigidity formula. Sometimes if Kr is equal to infinity, then rigidity is very high in artham. The foundation is highly rigid. If Kr is going to be 0, then what happens? The foundation is going to be flexible and contact pressure is going to be uniform. This is what he has found out, and he proposed this picture representing the contact pressure distribution for flexible footing on the left side pictures and for rigid footing on the right side pictures. And the above F stands for flexible footing, R stands for rigid footing, and the flexible footing order and the top two pictures represent for a clay soil, and the bottom two pictures represent the contact pressure distribution for the sandy soil. We'll discuss this in the